Christina, over to you. Welcome.
Thank you, Brian. It's nice to see familiar faces and some names and put faces and energy to those names. And some of you are brand new to me and me to you. So nice to make some more connections. And how cool. Congratulations on the growth of this community. Good numbers. Yeah, my niche is visual coaching, and I'm a long time seasoned visual practitioner. So I was back in the days when there was like 80 people and we all knew each other. So it's been amazing to see, and been an early trainer in the field. So trained a lot of people who in turn have trained people, and begets more and more. So it's been remarkable to be part of a small niche thing that has just gone kaboom across the world and gone through lots of different morphs and evolutions, and continues to, hey, for this last year. Amazing what's going on, and big question marks about where it's leading us. So my journey, I started as a graphic recorder with the Grove Consultants. And I was actually in grad school in San Francisco when a friend of mine showed me something of the groves, and I literally had, like many of you probably did when you saw this stuff, had this visceral kind of like reaction, like, what is that? Oh my God, let me have some. And the two sides of my being, the left brain and the cognitive and the creative and even the feeling and the spiritual, kind of can come together. And that's what my curriculum does. It works from the left brain and the cognitive, and then the right brain and the emotional and the spiritual side of it. So I have with Shifted School stuff across the whole spectrum. So I get real left brainy cognitive people. Anybody want to raise their hand? This is going to stretch you what I'm going to do today. And then if you're more on the other side, more of the right brain, the creative, and you're very loose and very kind of in the body, you might be both, by the way, but if you favor that side, any people there? And we see that a lot in our work. And I'll tee up, I break up the work into what I call the 4 animals. And so the coaching work, what I'm going to demo with you today, is the 4th animal. Everybody can define it in different ways, but I think part of what goes on in our field too is there's a lot of misunderstandings about some of the different ways of playing with the base skills. So you've got studio work, and we're seeing more and more of that happen. And probably some of you are these incredible artists and illustrators and creative folks who have found their way, particularly in the last 5 to 7 years, into this field. And we're seeing studio work and that look and that aesthetic showing up more and more, especially as the field's been pushed online, right? Graphic recording in some way, to me, it feels like it's morphed into studio work. And that's also pushed out quite a lot of people, and as people who are very good at the artistic side have entered in. Then we've got kind of and this kind of falls with the left brain, right brain thing. We've got kind of a dividing line that takes us over into what I call process work. And that word process can be used in lots of different ways. And I use it in lots of different ways that sometimes confuse the heck out of people. But what I mean loosely, and many of you are process people, even if you don't use that terminology. So you're holding space, right? You're holding space for groups. You're holding space for individuals. You're helping them think. Some of you might be like me, helping them feel, right? And especially with what's going on with the pandemic, there's a lot of feeling going on with the thinking right now, right? So we're all kind of in the soup to stretch our emotional intelligence and help groups do that too. So studio work, graphic recording, then it moves into process work with groups, AKA true graphic facilitation, right? And then it moves into process work with individuals. A lot of stuff you can do with groups, a lot of stuff you can do with individuals, right? Lots of different kinds of consultants, facilitators and stuff who lead groups and do lots of things with them. And then when you get over into working with individuals, it's the same thing. I run a visual coach certification. I get all sorts of people who work with individuals, therapists, counselors, coaches, because it's called visual coaching, financial advisors, funny enough, because they're helping people with their money, and it helps to know a vision and a plan and how to communicate with others, especially if you're doing something with your money, right? With your partner or with business partners and things. Mediators find their way into that program. All different kinds of advocates. So I see one of our current visual coaches just popped in. Hi, Jill. Advocates and different kinds of advisors. So it might be advocates, disabilities. Anybody probably familiar with maps and paths work, right? So people in that genre will find their way naturally into working with other kinds of populations too, and or using my tools specifically with those populations. What else? There's probably some I'm missing, but it's a real gamut, and it continues to unfold as this visual work unfolds around the world, right? It gets into different people's communities and different ways of working. They're turning on to using the visuals with the individuals that they're working with as well. And so I'm doing increasingly, and probably because of the pandemic as well, there's such a great need to help people with their thinking, their feeling. So that aspect of my work continues to grow, and thankfully so, because that's where I grow as an individual too. That's my most fun work. Spent a lot of time in corporate, a lot of stuff with groups. I was with the Grove, a lot of strat planning. I can do all that stuff. I can speak that language. I don't really want to spend my time there so much anymore. So I'm at, midlife, moving more into, and I always have pursued my passion work. So this is my passion work of working with individuals. And in that range, you can work very left brain with individuals, and you can also work very right brain with them, right? And I can meet people there. I can speak that language, like I told you, that world I came out of. So I'm very logical and rational, and linear and practical. But increasingly, I had that, and I think most of us in this field have intuitive sensitivities, creative sensitivities, right? We're a little more expanded into the right brain than most professions, most industries. And so with this stuff, what you do with individuals, there's a real great range. So you can keep it kind of neck up, right? Cognitive and heady kind of stuff and corporate kind of stuff that they're okay with. And you can get away with a lot behind closed doors in corporate, where you can become a more full being, right? And actually embody and get into the heart and get into the stomach and the belly and the instinctual kind of stuff. What I'm going to do today with you, and we've got, I think, some constellators here too, so you're going to help me talk to the left brain a little bit about it, but we're really going to get embodied. We're going to get into, the full aspect. Our brains, our cognitive are coming along for the ride, but they're not just a head on a stick. We're really tracing the spinal cord all the way down through the full body. And we'll get into something that's called representing. And when you represent, that's what you have to do. You have to step fully into something, your whole body, and kind of report from it. And that's where you get into reporting about not just thoughts and concepts right up here in the head, but feelings and sensations and impulses and even words that want to kind of spontaneously come out. All this stuff is in us as human beings. And I work with, like I said, people across the spectrum. So everybody can, funny enough, do what we're going to do today. So maybe I'll screen share here. Brian, my co-host, can I go ahead and screen share?
Screen share.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to pull up in here in a second. Let me just get something really basic and work with it. And I hope it's nice that I have Brian as the backup, because in case this stuff craps out on me. I was working with a client earlier today, and I was like, no, not today. Don't do this. I want to do my constellation with everybody later. I use a Wacom Cintiq. I know a lot of people use iPads, but I use a Cintiq, and I use Sketchbook Pro. I have a big old one here strapped to my desk. And so mine's, I think I can get it in the view here. It's a 24-inch. And for me, because I've been working online for 8 years, ergonomically, I like the bigger setup, right? And be able to move this stuff around. I also have a standing desk, so you might see me at times standing up and stuff and shifting my body, because it's been super important, as probably a lot of you have found out this last year, right? Yeah, just really looking after your body. So that's the technology I'm using. I have a whole system that Brian had mentioned, which is Shift It. And that's just over here. There's a model. I'm not going to go into it, but it's an acronym, right? So the letters of the name make up the overall model, and there's different segments to it. And it's strategic planning with some special sauce in it. So clients show up and you show up for constellation stuff. Usually when your satisfaction is either interrupted, right? You're dissatisfied, and or you're just a high achiever and you want more. There's no dissatisfaction, they just want more. Unlike a lot of coaches, I will actually go into the history like we do in organizations with history maps for them. I do a lot of life mapping with people. And I didn't start like that as a coach. And frankly, the coaching school I went to, CTI, told me don't do that. So I didn't do that for years. But I found that with a big bulk of my clients, I had to do that because there was stuff in the background that was interfering with their visions, right? And so a lot of my work does what I call trouble at the border, which is the border between where you are now and where you want to go, right? And I actually do a lot of this stuff in organizations too. I just language it differently. So there's a whole bunch of tools that I have, 17 core maps that go into this process at large. But over the years, my edge has been, what can I do to help my clients align? Those ones, some people you can just do a vision and a plan and they're off and going, right? And they're not complicated. But most people, myself included, are a little more complicated. So over the years, I've had to find ways to work with those complications, right? And I'm a lifelong learner, like probably a lot of you are. And Brian saw someone there about alchemical hypnotherapy about me. So I've done a lot of stuff in addition to my organizational development degree. And my minor was English and sociology. So all that stuff fits in nicely. But I've studied hypnotherapy. I've studied, what else? NLP, shamanic kind of stuff. Along the way, I had something that's called the Kundalini Awakening. If you want to stick around for bonus time, I can talk about that. It's a little woo-woo for a lot of people. But that was amazing. And that led me into energetics at large because I had all this weird stuff happening in my system that my left brain was like, what the heck? Spontaneous movements and stuff and toning coming out and lots of intuition. I was already intuitive. Also mediumship, the dead kind of show up in my coaching sessions. So all this stuff like kabamo to me in 2009 and expanded again because I did ayahuasca, Silly Me, 2012. I can talk about ayahuasca too with ceremonies, but so there's a whole bunch of stuff that went into me being who I am now. So I started out pretty conventional and conservative, came from a military family, and a lot of stuff happened along the way. So that led into a whole other body of work. People who go through my certification, that's the bonus maps. So if you do my certification, you get 20 of them up here and another 20 plus. And I continue to invent new ones. The newest ones, I got into constellation work about 20 years ago with a woman in the San Francisco Bay Area, Gabrielle Borkin, who was trained by the founder of this stuff, Bert Hellinger, German therapist. Anybody else aware of Bert's work? Yes, two, sort of. Heard the name? Yeah. He just died last year. And so he had a phenomenal career and he birthed, just like we have with the visual field, right? There's some early founders and then there's this incredible diversification that happened. It's the same thing that happened in the constellation field. So there's a lot of different nuances and different flavors and stuff that have developed over the years. I am doing the flavor of combining the stuff with visuals because that's just who I am. And now that the whole world's gone online, the constellation field as well is trying to figure out how the heck do we do this stuff? Because you typically do it in person, just like we typically do GRGF stuff in person. Same with the constellating field, right? So it's been a massive learning curve for that field too, to figure out how do we translate this stuff. And this happened for me before the pandemic hit, but I have, and Brian, I think has loaded them up for you. I've got 4 templates. 2 of them I use a lot that help me do constellations online, and we're going to use them with you today. And so one of them, I'll bring it up here soon enough and do it. It's called chair work. So typically when you show up and do a constellation with someone, just like coaching, satisfaction interrupted, they normally show up when they've got, something going on. It's usually a problem or issue or something. And it started in families originally with Bert's work because he was a therapist. And then it's deviated and expanded into systemic. So more recently, I got trained with a woman, Jane. I'm sorry, Jane, I'm blitzing on your name right now. But she's the Human Systems Institute. And then her name will come to me. In Portland, Oregon. And she's got a certification, and I went through that several years ago. And then I just continued in her course. I actually created these templates, and then I've been using them ever since. And I don't really do it in the traditional way. Because I was already a functioning facilitator and coach, I just rolled them into my practice at large. And so I use them in a lot of different ways. It gives me, when people come to me, again, with the satisfaction interrupted, I have all these tools. And sometimes I choose to do constellation with the person because it helps us see things visually and spatially in really different ways than some of the other tools. And it's very powerful. It can really cut to the chase. I just did a constellation with a client earlier today. And for him, he's moving into a new organization. He has his private practice. He's just new to visuals. He's got a wife and probably going to start creating a family together. So we could kind of plot that all out and really help him look at it and play with it and experiment with some things in a really right brain way instead of just doing some cognitive stuff with it. So in a second here, I want to open it up to those of you who have done some constellating yourself and just find out about the topics. And we're going to probably, we'll find out what topic, but I'd like to experiment a little bit with our field, right? Loosely this field that brings us all together, visuals, and see about applying a constellation to it. And so the first thing that we're going to do is use my chair work template. And we're going to find our way as a group, not just me with one individual like I typically work, but we're going to, as a group, have a discussion. It's like we're all sitting on the chairs in a circle here, figuring out what are we going to do the constellation on. And once we figure out what we're going to do the constellation on, it's going to have some component parts to it. I like to start small and simple because we can always add more parts in later if we need to. If you start really big and complicated, sometimes it can get away from you. So I'm just going to start kind of simple. And so I know I might not put all the components on. I might wait. And usually it shows me, it being the field consciousness, right? Intelligence amongst all of us at large, it'll kind of guide me about when these other ones might go in. But that is called the floor work. You move from the chair talking about it to getting on the floor and actually placing these things. And I have a template for that. And it's kind of like, Brian will pull it up here in a while. Because this stuff is done in person and you're in, just like we are for GRGF, you're in these meeting rooms, right? It's like you're up in the chandelier, right? Looking down at the floor. And the floor's kind of got a grid space on it so that we can go, oh, it's over here in this side, or this thing belongs over here in this space. So you'll see that template soon enough here. So there's the pre-work, there's the during work, and I have a couple of templates for post-work. And it doesn't, and we probably won't go there today on the post-work, but especially for those cognitive clients, their brains and intellects want to understand what the heck just happened. And they want to connect the dots to what happened with the constellation. So I have these other templates that help that brain connect a little bit of the dots to what they just experienced from that floor work. And some constellation, Hellinger did too. He used to say, don't touch it, don't talk about it, don't try to figure it out, just drop it and move on. But I have found that with some of my clients, they can't do that. So I have these templates for those who must chew on it a little bit to help the left brain kind of digest it and understand it a little bit more. But again, I don't use those too often. So I have given Brian these templates with a caveat. I would say kind of don't try this at home till you get some training with Constellation. Sometimes it can look kind of simple, but when you get in there, you find out it's not actually that simple. And there's things I'm doing that you might not be knowing what I'm doing that is keeping it safe and keeping it flowing along. So I've put the templates up there. You're all welcome to have them, but I would ask that those of you who have already got Constellation training, if you want to use those templates, go for it. You know, experiment and play with them. Those of you who are not there, go seek out a Constellation training. I don't do Constellation training at this point in time, but there's a lot of good people out there who do. And once I remember Jane's last name, Peterson, there it is. She's my go-to. She's now gone online with a lot of her training, and she is a super egghead and a very talented person. Yeah. Okay, so with that, I'm going to bring up, I'm going to give this a quick save. And I'm going to get this chair work template out and just insert it. And I wanted to just show you guys this too, just with me with templates. Probably a lot of you. How many people are using templates in your online work already? Anybody using Groves? I use the Grove stuff for my organization. I came out of Grove, so I love their strategic visioning templates. I highly recommend them if you're not using them yet. I have, again, these 40-something tools that I have. So I just have them at the ready here. I think you can see my desktop here. And so I've got them divvied out in different ways. So I'm just going into my Constellation folder, and I'm just going to pull out my chairwork one. And it's very basic. Let me add a couple layers on here. And I'm just going to add a couple more people, and we're going to start to have a conversation here. And before I do, I just want to invite any of the fellow constellators here with me. Anything that you would say about this method, right? Any quick little things you want to share, how you got into it, how you use it in your practice. I'd love to hear that, and I'll collect that stuff around, and then we'll focus on what are we going to do with this floor and kind of show you guys what this stuff is about, as opposed to telling you if you don't already know it. Barb, you had told me you're a constellator, so anything, I'll start with you. Anything you want to add?
I saw it as systemic constellation with Harrison Snow.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And I couldn't believe what I was feeling. And that really impressed me. And then Susan Ulfeld with the Hellinger Institute. And so also she was directly trained by Hellinger. And I took a year of training in how to do it. I not quite figured out how to use it in my work, and I'm not quite sure that I want to. I just think that opportunities come, and you want to be able to pull that out of your back pocket.
Yeah, and you said such a key word, which is the feel. I can't believe what I'm feeling, right? So when you did it, yeah. And so there's the feeling is that access point for a lot of people, right? About this knowledge. There's all this information that's right there, ready to be tapped. And it's quite amazing when you do it, if it goes well, fingers crossed this will all go well today, that you'll be like, holy moly, I didn't know that was just lying there, just ready to work with. I see Ashante, you got her? Yep, great. Okay, anybody else, Constellator, want to talk about your experience with it or your connection? It doesn't have to be positive too. Sometimes people are like anti-constellation for various reasons. So I invite that as well.
And if you've got something, feel free to go off mute. We'll see it and then call on you and feel free to speak up.
Okay. So let's do it rather than tell you about it. So in order to do it, we have to have something to apply it to. Now, I think, I've been thinking since Brian and I were talking about this, what can we apply this to and what can we do? So let me see time-wise if I have a chance. Yeah, I think we'll have enough time where I can actually have you do something each. So everybody is going to have an opportunity. There's something that we can do on your end, so you can all do your own mini constellations. And then we'll do one together. And we'll have this conversation first that kind of sets the scene for everybody. I know for sure, and let me just put in here, we got Nova Scribes. And what is it? Is it the 17th or something?
I think it's the 20th.
20th already. It's amazing.
I know, right?
Yeah. May 20th, 2020. I always got to look at my calendar. I never am rooted in days. Okay. Like I was saying, I have the 4 animals with this work, right? So overall, I use the analogy of a umbrella. And the handle is process work in the middle, right? So I'm just going to do it real quick. This is studio work. This is graphic recording. Process work with groups. And process work with individuals. And over here, it's working visually. Interactive visuals, whatever you want to call it. I call it working visually now. I've called it a lot of stuff over the years. So this makes up the field. And yes, there's other fields, right? Steve comes from design. You might have a lot of other stuff, but I know design, what you're telling us, what's behind you. So, you know, another field right up next to us, right? A lot of transferable skills. Others of you maybe from other fields as well and kind of overlap in here. So our field is embedded in a lot of other stuff. So it'll be interesting to do a constellation. I actually want to place at least, I want to split up the field into these 4. And it's a bit of an experiment. This may or may not work, but I know for sure I want to place studio work, graphic recording, process work with groups, and process work with individuals, because we're probably going to do something about, you know, what's going on now in the world and what might be happening in the future here. And those things might be impacting aspects of the field in different ways. So that's why, as I've been thinking about this for a while, I think it might be useful to split those out. And others of you might cut the cards in different ways, but I'm going to ask permission to just hopefully do those 4 as something to place. Now, to get the conversation to open up and all of us talking about it, if we were to do a constellation, and this is, again, going to just kind of help us enter into what the heck are we going through right now, right? And we can put different aspects on this, different kinds of questions, different kinds of inquiries. So we're all part of the field, and it has more or less these 4 component parts to it. What do you think would be helpful? Like, what are you curious about? If we're to place our field and use this modality on it, what would be useful to poke around about with our field?
And Christina, would you like people to go off mute and just speak up?
Yes, please. That'd be great.
Okay.
We're in massive transition in the field right now. There's got to be some sort of questions or queries.
I mean, I'll just go ahead and say it.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in what happens with, for example, going back to work, hybrid, the connection between in-person and virtual work. And I saw Mateo go off mute.
Hi, he's ready. Yeah. Hold on. Let me get it down. So you said hybrid and then in-person and virtual, right?
Right.
Okay.
And actually, I was going to say the same thing, Brian.
Okay.
Okay, good. So that's kind of that. What's going to happen with that stuff? Okay, we could play with that. And that's kind of the future, right? What's going to happen is a future question. So this is also kind of the futures lurking around. I thought that might be one way we could approach it, was like past, present, future, right? And kind of see what happens if we put those elements on. Other thoughts? Steve, I see you unmuted.
Yes, so it's I just did an in-person workshop for the first time in 15 months, a couple of weeks ago.
Oh,
and
congrats, good.
Loved coming back into the room and feeling the energy of the room, and just realized it's just been something that's been completely missing, like staring at the Zoom screen for the last, year, trying to feel the energy. And so I'm always curious, like, I don't think virtual's going away. So what can we do better to be able to feel energy in the virtual environment? Because
Wow.
I love it, but I didn't have it. So what can we do to bring it?
Feel better in it. What is the, if you're to flip it, like what's the challenge, and therefore what are you jonesing for? What are you longing for? More what?
Well, so in the room, you get the different modalities of energy and just the communication paths.
Yep.
I mean, you're listening to people talk, but then you're hearing the people that are holding their breath, the people that are shifting in their seat, the people that are leaning back, and you just can't get that as much in virtual, right? I mean,
Yeah, totally.
Staring at all of the little Brady Bunch views, people are looking down, they're looking away. Are they doing their email? Are they engaged or what? So that's what I've been missing, right? Is that ability to read the room.
Yep. Good.
By other modalities other than visual, I guess that's what I'm trying to get to.
Exactly.
Oh, I have, I think for me, like, I wonder a lot about the integration of different types of media, like how things seem like they're becoming more integrated, like into the work. And I just wonder, like, what types of multimedia, what it will look like at work and like when we interact with each other. Yeah.
I'm wondering,
Thanks, Ashanti.
what we're going to have. Are we going to have a competition between the really neat quality that comes out of digital now,
Yeah.
and the kind of hard Scrabble quality that came from it's on paper, it's really hard to fix it. We lost a little bit of the sheen that comes from being able to fix everything on that Procreate screen. So I'm curious about where the aesthetic might go. Or will people like having access to both? I mean, with the new media making it possible to share so much so quickly by doing it digitally and being able to share it in environments like this, I wonder if people will start missing paper. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, so there's another polarity here, digital and analog. We've got it up here with the in-person and the virtual, and then down in our materials, the digital and the analog. Yeah, thanks, Kathy.
Can I just say it was so cool how you represented that polarity with like that infinity loop that was there? That's something I'm going to be remembering.
Nice and simple. Yeah. Yeah, and that is intuitively there. That's non-dual too, right? That's whole. So getting them both in there, the all.
I have something to add.
Please.
Hi, Christina.
Hi,
so what's coming to me is, are some of us going to be called to facilitating social change based on all of the significant events that have happened during this pandemic phase? Are we going to be working with new and different professional colleagues from different fields? And are we actually going to address this collective trauma? Or are we all just going to jump back to work, overwork, and completely avoid what just happened and not actually do that healing work of reintegrating our minds and hearts and somehow...
Did you say social justice at the beginning? Is that the terminology you used?
What I wrote down was facilitating social justice with interdisciplinary professionals from different fields.
Okay, and that's all again to help address the trauma too. Okay.
One thing I was thinking about is how, the virtual and the big shift is really not forced, but like, we're seeing into people's homes and experiencing their, kids and dogs and things. And so it's kind of, will that wholeness of the human, the humans we are, come back into I don't know, will it integrate back?
We'll still keep it?
Yeah.
And that kind of realness, that if I was to jump in with my own words too.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So let's put that in. The whole and the real is kind of showing up. Whole, real, authentic, even personal, right? Like you're saying, seeing into people's homes and the fuller aspect of their lives. What's gonna happen with all that yummy, juicy, good stuff? Okay. Thank you. Still kind of swimming around, and I'm getting ideas about component parts here. So let's just see anything else around this dilemma and emergence we're all in with this field.
I just experienced this and it reminded me of Brian's book. The old normal came back this week, I think. Traffic is back. And I think people are going to miss the easy, almost Star Trek transportability of the virtual world. You can safely be at home. You're not going to get stuck in traffic. I was late to this session because I was stuck in traffic. And I just think that magic of being able to be online with people from other countries and other continents, wow. I mean, that was just the coolest thing about this pandemic was talking to somebody in France one afternoon and without leaving the house.
Absolutely, for sure. Good. So again, on the theme of this hybrid, or not so much there'll be hybrid, but there's also the split, right? There can be hybrid, but there's in person, there's virtual, and that, if I'm hearing you right, that longing of not wanting that virtual and that ease and that non-commute, non-environmental stuff that goes on with commutes happening at the same time. I'm not sure who it was who was speaking, so who am I looking for? Who said that?
It was Kathy.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank
you,
I can see
you there. Yeah. Okay, so there's a couple things that are starting to emerge that I'm hearing energy around. And if you've got some more, let me know in a sec, but I'm just going to pop out the ones that I feel the energy with. I still am feeling my 4 animals over there in the field. Also, definitely digital and analog. I feel that. And I also feel this whole, oops, I should have done that underneath my layer. So here, this in-person virtual split too. And the stuff, trauma's really got my attention, as it always does. Trauma, social justice, whole, real, personal. Let me see. The old normal is kind of like the past, right? Old, new, but might be something to place. Old and new, or past and future. I'm just thinking. I'm not sure whether to go with old, new, or past or future. They've got a different nuance to it. And these things all have a relationship, so. Okay. Brian, get ready, because we're going to switch to your one, and we're going to use that grid here in a second.
Okay, super ready. And I'm just noticing a couple of things going on.
Yeah.
Mateo added, for me, it's the new balance I am now holding with health and wellness, mine, and work, which is to say not schlepping. I'm seeing a thumbs up from Kathy. By the way, Mateo and I are competing on Apple Watch Fitness all the time. So this kid works. He'll do like 30-mile bike rides a day. Yeah, look at that muscle. Yeah, show me that again. And then I also noticed that Angela has her hand up.
Go for it, Angela. Thank you for being polite and waiting with the hand up.
Yeah, no problem. So something that kind of is going, that I would say is a word, is a way for me to describe it is, I think for a lot of the pandemic, we've really felt like we're in the unknown. And as we've gotten unused to it, we've become almost like that unknown is suddenly turned into kind of like a treasure chest, because it's like, oh, there's so much possibility, and now things might be going back to the way we were, the way we understood it, and all this possibility that we've kind of gained throughout graphic recording might suddenly disappear like it never was. And it's kind of this fear, like, for example, I'm projecting for my own experience, because I became a graphic recorder during the pandemic. That's when my career started. So it's suddenly like, oh, this world that I got used to, I don't know if this world is going to exist in 2 months.
Right.
And so the unknown is still there, but it's like fear of the unknown, of it going back to normal.
Well, and the constellation, a lot of this stuff, the constellation itself might help give us some clues about definitely our past and our now, but I'm most interested, and I think most of it are about the future, right? Like, where is this going? What's it going to settle in? And hopefully we might not necessarily place the unknown, right? Or that fear. And I've heard loss through several of your comments, right? Losing things. There's good things that come out of this. We don't want to necessarily lose those things as we return back to some sort of semblance of normality. Okay. So hang tight as we do this. Some of those, it might become more known. It might become more, give you something to lock onto that might, out of this constellation, give some hope or give some knowledge. So we'll see. Okay, I'm going to start with the 4 animals. So I'll leave this up for a bit. I'll cue you when I want to switch over, Brian.
Yes, ma'am.
But I need to do a little riff on what representing is. So I'm not completely sure on all the reps that we need. So I'm going to start small, like I was saying before. I'm going to start with the 4 animals. And we're going to see what happens as we put that up, because we might even get just some information on that, right? About these different aspects of our field and how they relate to each other. And then I'm going to be able to have this up even if you guys can't see it. And that's going to continue to guide me about whatever happens here. I might throw in some of these other elements that various people are interested about. So social justice and healing and digital and analog and in-person, virtual, right? These kinds of things. And I think we got the right amount of people here, because probably I was thinking I'd want to do something that you could all do individually. And I was going to do an individual thing with you plus this thing. But I have a sneaking suspicion that probably most of you, if you want to be a representative, you're going to have an opportunity to be a representative. So let me tell you a bit about what that is. Most of all, if you've never done one, you just kind of got to be willing to jump in and try, and you're going to learn by doing, right? But in a shorthand way of explaining it to you, you are going to become some of the aspects of these things that we were talking about. We are going to place them, and I'll help you figure out how to place them in a second here, but we're going to place them on the board, right? They are all going to intuitively have their own right space. And some of you are going to represent aspects of this dilemma that we're looking at here. And I will be guiding you to find on this board, where is the right place? Some of you, I'm going to have to get you out of your minds when you do it. Because when you go to do it, your mind's going to want to try to figure it out. Oh, I'm this, so therefore it intellectually and logically makes sense. I would be right here, right? If that's happening, I'll just gently kind of invite you to get more into your body and have it guide you. I'm not really looking at the chat, and I might be, but Brian, you'll let me know.
I'll give you the heads up.
Yeah. Okay, so anybody who's not willing to be a representative, and time-wise, we've got 2 hours, so that means we've got an hour and 5 minutes or so to play with. Is that right? Yep, Brian? Okay, good. That's a good amount of time. So if you do not want to be a representative, and if you want to stick around and watch, that's a roll onto itself, kind of watching and holding space, right? But if you do want to be a representative, just keep your, put your video on, so I know that you're willing to be a rep. And if you're not, then I'll assume if you're off, you don't want to play, and that's totally fine. But you are playing even if you're there. This is a thing, it does kind of bug me with screens. I get it where people can't see, but it's hard, to Steve's point, right? It's hard to know what's going on. So I will say that if you are behind a screen and you are still present, you're doing something, right? By participating and observing, you're in the energy, you're a space holder. So any black screens there, if you're tracking me, be a placeholder, right? You're part of this too, even though you're kind of blank and we can't see you. Now, everybody who I can see here, great, you're going to be the representatives. I was debating whether we do this so that you know what you are, or we do what's called blind. And I think we're going to do it as you know you are, which is a bit of a risk because your head might get in it. But doing blind can sometimes be a little hard to track it, especially if you have a lot of components like we do. So I'm going to let you guys know right off the bat what you're going to be, okay? So I'm going to start with 4 people. This is where we're going to start. We're going to start with somebody's going to be studio work, somebody's going to be graphic recording, somebody's going to be process work with groups, and somebody's going to be process work with individuals, those 4. And I think I'm just going to do the intuitive picking of those 4 to start with, okay? So anytime you're ready, Brian, I can stop share, and we're going to switch over to the next template. So you've seen this one, the chair work. That's just a way of having a dialogue and finding out what the heck we're doing, right? So I kind of have enough to start. So now I move to my next template, which is this floor template. And Ashanti's bopping in and out, so we'll get her back in here, huh?
Yep. Yeah. And Christina, just to be clear, would you like me to go ahead and share the mural with everybody?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm also going to share my screen so that it records for Zoom, so that we've got it as recording. And just know that you can't click on the shared screen if you're going to create a sticky note in mural. Just making sure that we all know that. All right, so let me go ahead and share
and
this.
And nobody else is going to be doing anything but you.
Oh, peace. Okay.
Yeah, that's the way I prefer to do it. Yeah.
Oh, you got it. No worries.
Because it'll make it easy. Yeah.
Well, that makes it far easier. Okay.
Yeah.
Forget everything I just said. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen then.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, everybody. So this is and it's, you might have to angle, like I have to angle my screen a little bit so I can see it. There's actually a very soft grid on there. And on the vertical, there's an A, B, C, D, E, F, right? And then on the horizontal, there's numbers 1 through 11. So it creates a little grid system for us. And again, we're up in the ceiling in the chandelier. We're looking down on the floor. And Brian, if you could just draw a little figure, if you're able to, if you have to do drawing or sticky or whatever, right by my logo, if you could stick outside of the square, stick a person. And that's going to be me, facilitator. You could just call that facilitator.
Okay.
Yeah. And then also put a couple of other people, because we've got these people who are holding the space, right? Who may not be reps at all, the people who are behind the blank screens. And so if you, yeah, excellent. Replicate a couple other people. So we've got facilitator, and then we've got circle holders. Now, you can do it however you want to do it, Brian. If you want to use those people, or if you want to use a sticky note. For the figures, we'll all figure, Brian and I haven't done this together, so we're just doing it now. He reassured me this is what you do in Nova Scribes, so I'm totally game to just play together here and teamwork it. So, okay, now I'm going to, you can keep them on the side for now, but you're going to name them. So I need 4 figures in addition to the ones we already have. And you're going to name those. One's going to be studio work. One's going to be graphic recording. And one's going to be, we'll just say group work, individual work. And we know that's process work, but it's too long for him to type all that. Thank you. Oh, well, since you can do it nice and small, like let's do visual group process work, individual visual process work. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, so let me see. What's it feel like? Who's going to be what here? Rachel, would you be willing to be studio work?
Yes, I would.
Thank you, ma'am. So you're going to be our first example of how to do this. So I'm going to invite you to just kind of focus in on this floor. And you're already, as I'm saying, you're being studio work, you're kind of feeling into studio work at large. And for whatever reason, you just somehow know that there's a place you want to be on that floor. And don't even think about it. It might just be more of a feel or a pull. But if you can relate to any of that, if you feel a pull somewhere on the floor, where do you feel it? Where does it seem the right place for you to be?
D5.
Okay, good. Go ahead and move her to D5. And would you mind renaming yourself to studio work?
Sure.
You could just put your name dash studio work. That way I'll know as I get to know your names too. Yeah. Okay, next we're going to go to graphic recording. Ludi, would you be willing to be graphic recording?
Okay.
Yeah, okay, excellent. Good sport. Yeah. Now, same thing. I know it's a weird question, and Rachel just boom did it. So same thing. You've got this kind of field or floor, and there's one character in there that's named studio work. And you are this other thing. Don't even worry that it's graphic recording. You're just this thing that's going to be placed on a floor. Do you have any sense of where the right space is for you?
I want to go lower in the alphabet, maybe B.
Yep.
And maybe 3, B3.
B3 up at the top there. Yeah, excellent. Does that feel right? You can always just tell them to adjust it.
Can I go a little bit B4 maybe?
Yep. So left, right, up, down. You could also talk like a clock.
No, I think she actually meant B4.
Yeah.
If I got that right.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. You got it. Yep. Good.
Okay. That seems right.
Okay, good. And see, that's perfect. Whatever, that just seems right. Now, there's a little step I forgot. And Brian, this will throw a little something in for you. So you'll see if you can do it in this system. I need a nose. I need to know which direction this thing is pointed. So back to studio work. Studio work, you're there on the floor, but if you were facing a direction, which direction would you be facing? If we're looking down at the floor from the chandelier, which way is your nose pointed?
I'm looking towards the S of Constellation, that top. Or
Okay, well, look at that. He knew. Yeah. Thank you. And I'm going to ask the same thing of graphic recording. Where's your nose pointed, graphic recording?
I'm looking in towards the middle of the space.
Great, right into the middle of it all. Yep. How's that? Let him know if he needs to adjust it. Sometimes there's these little micro adjustments that need to happen, and that's all part of it. So never go like, yeah, that's good enough. No, like we want it.
maybe a little bit, oh, I'm sorry, I'm very bad at left and right. A little bit more towards between 3 and 4 o'clock.
Does that feel better?
Lovely.
Okay. So this looks like something else's, not noses. Okay, let's go to visual process work with individuals. Jill, would you be willing to be visual process work with individuals?
I'm not a
Okay.
certified coach, but yes.
Well, yeah, you got the consciousness of it. Yeah, okay. Jill's just starting out in the current cohort. So for now, where is it? Get your head out of it and let your body do it. Where does that one belong? Where's the home? There's 2 other characters on there. Don't even worry what they are. And there's all this space on this floor. Where do you belong?
I'm sensing just to the left of graphic recording.
Okay.
Yeah.
And which way is your nose pointed? Where are you looking?
The nose is going up, sort of off the map towards Constellation, towards the word Constellation.
Okay, like 11 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. We'll come back to all of you. And as you've been placed, everybody, and new characters come on the board, something might happen in your somatic, right? You just kind of notice as new ones come onto that space, it might impact you. I'll come back and ask you about that. And then the visual process work with groups. Tanya, would you be willing to be visual process with groups? Okay. And so same thing, you're going to throw your consciousness onto that floor and somehow you just belong somewhere. Where do you belong?
I belong at D9.
Interesting. Which way are you looking?
I'm looking backwards at the group.
Okay, so like 9 o'clock?
Like 11 o'clock.
11
10 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. So everybody just kind of, some of your consciousness is going to be your usual everyday consciousness that's checking this out and watching, observing. Okay, that's your intellect and mind. Give it a little kiss. We're glad it's tracking. It's welcome to keep tracking, right? You're a process professional. You're going to do that. But now I want you to get into your body, like drop down into these particular circles and figures and stuff, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get reports from each of you. And if I was doing this in person, I would very softly and gently leave the rest of you behind. And you might want to put some more people, Brian, by the facilitator, because there's more people out there. So I'm just going to kind of step away from you guys and I'm going to enter into this space. And I'm just going to use whom I pulled to. And, I'm finding myself really pulled to the visual process work with groups. So I'm going to softly and gently, not to cause any ripples or any waves or anything in this field. I'm just going to walk over to that one. And I stand gently beside and I kind of do a little psst. And I say, how is it for you? And Tanya, if you could put the name when you can, rename yourself so we have it by your name on the Zoom. You're going to report as you get on in there, you're going to tell me anything that you notice. And it's probably going to be a sensation or a feeling, whatever it might be. Let me know what's going on from that position. What do you notice in there? You don't have to worry about placing me, Brian. It's okay. You don't have to move the facilitator around. But if you want to do that, that's fine.
I'm not sure if this is right, but I'm noticing a sense of scarcity around visual work with groups.
Okay. Okay, great. Yeah. And if you're able to, Brian, you don't have to. Yeah, perfect. That's what I do when I do it. I'll put a bunch of words. So you're feeling kind of scarcity. And how does scarcity feel in your body? That's a head interpretation about what you're feeling, right? Yeah, so it's drop down even deeper about more basic. What can you report from a more basic? Are you like, are you sucking in air?
It's kind of fluttery.
Yep.
Fluttery in my chest.
Fluttery. Yeah.
Fluttery. And then like a heaviness in my belly.
Thank you. Fluttery in my chest and heaviness in my belly. Anything else you notice? Are you aware of, there's other characters on the board. Are you aware of them at all? Or are you just in your own world? What's in your view?
I'm definitely aware of studio work.
Okay, aware of studio work. That's like interesting.
Growing, yeah, a lot. It's like getting bigger and bigger.
Okay, that's very important information. So you're aware of studio work, and from your perspective, it just seems to be growing and getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And are there any words there? Like, where's mine, or you're getting all it, or something like that?
There's a level of resentment.
Resentment.
Yeah. There's a level of it's not all about the art. You know?
Yep.
Yeah. It's not all about the art. There's a lot more going on than it, you know, to hold space and to really truly engage with groups and then studio work.
Okay,
studio work is great and fine for what it is.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more going on.
Okay, nice report. And then just back to the body, to anything else you know in the body. So you're feeling resentment, it's fluttery, there's heaviness.
No, I think
that's very good. And you see this other one just getting bigger and bigger. And nice record, Brian. Thank you. Okay, now I'm going to just walk over, and I'm just going to go check out, since studio work did get mentioned. I could go to the other two, but I'm just finding myself drawn to studio work. So I'm just going to softly and gently walk over there. And to studio work, I'm like, hi.
Hi.
And how was it for you? You might have heard that other one, and you were the one who was first placed, and all these other ones came on. So I'm just wondering, how was it for you standing in this floor with these other ones around you and where you are?
I'm watching.
Mm-hmm. Watching, yep.
Yep. Just watching and looking around and breathing.
Mm-hmm. Is there anybody in particular you're aware of, or is it all equal? Where's your focus?
I guess I'm aware that visual process work with individuals and graphic recording are close together. But looking different ways, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that the visual process is kind of over there.
Which the groups, the visual process work with groups, you can't even see it, right? It's kind of, but you're sensing it's over there. Yeah, and it actually said some stuff about you. Were you aware of it speaking at all, or did it have any impact what it said?
I did. Yeah, I did hear, and I guess my response was okay. Like, okay, that's what it is. Maybe acceptance.
Acceptance, yeah.
Yeah.
And just one thing, Brian, don't worry about putting my stuff. If you could just really sparse it down to the key words of what the representative is saying. Thank you. And that's just good for everybody. There's kind of, as you're watching him and I engage with each other, you're seeing the things that I'm needing and wanting, and how to do the record with this stuff. Okay, that's acceptance. So interesting. Thank you very much, studio work. Nice report. Now I'm going to walk over. Studio work told us, hey, those other two are over there, but isn't it interesting? They're looking in different directions. That kind of caught my curiosity. So now I'm just going to pitter patter over there, soft and gentle. I'm actually finding myself pulled to graphic recording first. And so I'm going to stand next to graphic recording, and I'm going to ask, how is it for you? There's been some dialogue going on. There's some other ones placed. You're placed where you are. Anything you want to share with me about when you first got placed here to anything that's happened since?
I don't like that I'm so close to somebody that I'm looking the other way from. that's quite uncomfortable. That's giving me a sort of prickle feeling down the back of my neck.
Okay. Yeah. Prickly neck.
I feel quite comfortable being able to mostly see the other two people, because if I'm recording, I need to see what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I feel I'm wanting to turn my head different ways to get a more wide range.
Mm-hmm.
I'm finding it very difficult to differentiate how I, Ludi, would feel standing here compared to how I, graphic recording, would feel.
That's good. That's good. And you just want to focus on, I'm graphic recording, let Ludi go, and just sink into that, embody, get right down into that space, and be allowable if it's weird, right? Like if it's like different from you. I was like, wow, what do you know? There's something actually different in here. Report from what that is.
Yeah, I kind of want to move a little bit so that I can see everybody.
Okay.
But it's probably impossible to see everybody.
Ah, interesting. Yep. Okay, I'm going to come back to you because we may be able to go with that natural movement, but I'm going to ask you to just stay there for now. It might be a little uncomfortable because you're wanting to move and wanting to be able to see the others, but you can't. And Brian, if I could get a bigger view where I can see everything. Yeah. Great. And now I'm going to just walk over to the final one, which is that visual process work with individuals. And last but not least, I'm going to ask, how is it for you? There's been some stuff I've been kind of getting reports from the other ones, and now I finally get around to you. And anything you want to report on from the get-go of inhabiting this spot and the various things that have occurred. And did we lose? Oh, there you are.
Here I am. Sorry about that. Okay. I'm aware that I didn't communicate the direction of my arrow to you clearly. I wanted it to be at 2 o'clock, not at 11. So
Okay.
my direction.
We'll go ahead and adjust that.
Yeah.
Yep. Became apparent. Good. Thank you for letting us know.
I'm aware of the needs of graphic recording for more space. And I also want to move down a little bit closer towards studio work so I can orient myself a little bit more equitably with visual process with groups.
And get up, it's a little bit in the head, so get into the body and talk to me about sensations.
I'm feeling close to graphic recording. I'm feeling connected to graphic recording. I'm feeling there's a bond there. There's a beautiful relationship. There's a new energy there.
And how does that energy feel?
It feels like, I want to say like individuated from graphic recording, like an individuated process, moving into my own place, my own territory, I guess. There's a bit of anxiousness. There's a bit of uncertainty. There's a excitement, a sort of butterfly effect in my chest, and a sense of real expansion into I want to say like a whole person and a real depth of vocation and wisdom in that place.
Okay, thank you. Nice report. I'm going to go back and check with graphic recording because of a little shift of the nose. I don't know if that made a difference. I'm also curious, as that one behind you that you were feeling a little prickly about, if that did anything. It might have stayed the same, or was there any kind of change as you're hearing that one move around a little bit and speak?
I really like the movement. That's much more comfortable.
Great.
And hearing those words about the bond was very positive. That gave me a warmth, a physical warmth.
Mm-hmm.
I still feel conflicted about whether I should be turned more towards groups and studio work or more towards individuals.
Great. Thank you. And just if you'd write the word conflicted. Yeah, good. Okay. So thank you, everybody. Good reports. Just hang tight in your embodiments. I'm going to walk myself out and I'm going to go to the circle, right? All of our observers. And we're going to go, hey, you guys, we just got some information here about the 4 animals. Anything that you're noticing as practitioners of this field, right, with those people repping, I'm going to start with the ones who are observing, and then I'll let also the ones who are repping, if your minds and intellects want to get in on this too. But let me go to the people who are in the circle. Anything that you guys notice as we traversed our field in those bits and we got some information? I see Angela's got a hand up, so I'm going to start with her.
Yeah, a lot of the words that I kind of was picking up on was scarcity and conflicted and watching. And so for me, what I felt was a sense of fear, but also a sense of observation. So
there was observation came from studio work, and I guess you could say, do you see it in graphic recording as well? Or all of them kind of watching each other in different ways, huh?
I think that everybody's kind of watching each other in different ways. Like graphic recording was talking about the resentment it was kind of feeling towards studio work. So even if it watches it,
actually, it wasn't the resentment with the process work with groups, with studio work. Yeah, graphic facilitation with studio work. Yeah.
Whoops, my mistake.
Yeah, we want to make sure we get them right because it's important to know which one's being resentful. Yeah, good. Okay, yes. But that you felt that energy. You're right. That's a huge thing, the resentment. Yeah.
Yes. So, and with that is kind of just the idea of watching others and seeing what everybody else is doing and deciding what the movement is going to be based off of the world around us. So that's what I noticed in a lot of the in the room.
I wouldn't worry so much about this recording, Brian, if I could get the big view so everybody can see that, and then we'll get the report outs. Thank you. Thanks. Anybody else? What are you noticing? Right, this is information that you're getting potentially. There's some movement that's going to happen here that I'm going to let rip, and we'll see what happens with that movement. But this is the kind of the first crack at things.
I sensed some tension between studio work and visual process work with groups.
Yes.
So I felt that. I'm not quite, it felt like, I'm not sure what studio work, how they feel.
Studio work is a little kind of checked out in a way, but acceptance though, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that meant.
Yeah. So you're kind of like feeling something there. You're not
but I'm not
sold on the report. It may be a hypothesis and a projection on your part, or there might be something there. Yeah. So thank you, Shanti. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
The graphic recording, I felt a bit of maybe worry, looking, like turning of the head, like it felt a bit of maybe a little bit of worry there underlined. and what they were saying, and visual process work for individuals. Like, to me, it felt like, I mean, I know they talk, it felt like there's a closeness that they felt with graphic recording. I think it's interesting that they chose to be next to.
I mean, they write boom, and then the reports, especially when that movement happened, then graphic reporting was feeling a little bit more better about the visual coaching stuff, right? So that's kind of got some harmony or something going on there. Studio work says they're accepted, but it's a little, the energy doesn't quite, it's not a kumbaya acceptance, let's put it that way, right? And then you got the visual, you got that facilitation stuff way over in the distance, and who's feeling a bit threatened about studio work. So kind of interesting, right? Of placing these things and getting this information and it hitting different things in our field. And to me, that makes a lot of sense, actually. Anybody else want to get in on the kind of left brain analysis before we dive in and see what else we're going to find here?
Can I add something?
Yes, please, Jen. Yeah.
I thought it was interesting when studio work talked about acceptance. I sort of took that as confidence. You know, like if somebody, people can think they're competing with you, but if you don't view them as competition, you're just like, okay, have fun. And that was how I sort of took the description of acceptance, was just that there was a lack of concern about encroachment or competition.
Yeah, so I definitely would want to poke a bit more around studio work and kind of find out more what that's all about. And we're feeling and interpreting it in different ways. Yeah, thank you, Jen. Interesting. Anybody else? Going once, going twice? Alrighty. Brian, anything you want to say? I just, you're being so fabulous as a scribe here, so I want to also tap your facilitation side and your observer side.
I'm fascinated by this. Please keep going.
Okay. Okay, so we will. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to, I should have warned you about layers. First off, I'd love a screenshot. So if there's a way you're able to capture it as is, let's for sure get a nice screenshot. And this is like move one, right? This is our beginning thing. And we want to always, as I work, I'll do a save, right? And I end up with however many I have so that I can capture the main movements, and I give that to my client. So they'll say, we started here, then we went here, then we went there, right? And you kind of see the progression. So this is kind of the first go where we've got a layer of information. Sometimes that's all I get to with the client. And that in and of itself is interesting, right? Just getting the reports and going around. And by the way, we're using reps here. If I'm working one-to-one with somebody, usually I'll have that person rep all the roles themselves. And sometimes they ask me to do it, right? And maybe it's all the roles they want me to rep, or maybe there's one or two that they're afraid of, or and I'm like, oh, I'll go do it, right? So there's lots of different ways you can do it one-to-one with people or with groups. It's nice we have a group here where we can split it up. And just let me know when you think you're good with it. Oh, you got it. Oh, I love seeing this with Mural. Cool. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. And if you could erase all the content now that we've got it captured, and we'll just take it away. So we'll see it nice and clean. And when we go forward, try to take out, just leave me real sparse, like just the big boulders, Brian, like just the word like resentment, anxiety, right? Not any of the full sentence stuff. Yeah. So graphic recording, I'm going to walk over to you nicely and softly because you were telling me about movement. And I want to just check in with you. And you guys who are repping, shake off that intellect mind that was hearing all that conversation, right? And get back into the embodiment. And so graphic recording. How was it for you? You were telling me before that you were kind of feeling like you'd like to move. Is that still the case?
I'm very thrown by the words going away, because when they were there, I was feeling closer to the other people. The communication between us was pulling us together, and now all this space.
Well, of course you would feel that graphic recording. You like the words. Yeah. Yeah,
very
so go
empty.
ahead. But now it's different, right? When that's away, it's like, whoa, is it a little more naked or something? Or empty? Those are my
Empty.
words.
It
Empty.
feels,
Yeah.
I feel much more distanced from the other reps. I only want to move a little. I don't want to move too far from work with individuals, but I don't want to leave work with groups so far alone.
Brian, you can just skip this for now because I'm going to make her move and you're going to have to move it all. Yeah.
So I think I'm going to move to, sorry, B5.
Okay. So gently and softly, not too rushed, just nice right pace. You're going to move over to B5 and try that on for size and just see, how's that feeling for you? Is that the right thing? You can adjust a little.
No, that's too far. Can I be between the numbers?
Yes.
4 and 5?
Yep. Good. Try that on. How's that?
That feels good.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna need to turn ever so slightly to maybe 5 o'clock-ish so that I've got more of a whole view.
Excellent. Yeah. So you're wanting to see more of them. So that nose is going to move a little bit. And as it does, do you come into a like, oh, that's better? How is it for you as that movement happens?
Yeah, it is better. I feel relaxed.
That is better.
Yeah.
Okay, so to everybody, to my clients, what do you know? Graphic recording needed to move and it feels better being connected to all the aspects of the field. It likes to see all of them. Yeah, kind of makes sense given it's a fundamental skill for them all. And it wasn't interesting about words. It does not like words being removed. So graphic recording has words in it, right? Yeah. Not just images, it has words. It's both yes and left and right brain. Okay, thank you so much, graphic recording. I want to go check on studio work. I'm kind of pulled between studio work and a visual process work with individuals, the coaching stuff. But I guess studio work ran out. So how was it for you, studio work? You may have picked up on some conversation and stuff happening about you, and there's some movement that's been happening. Graphic recording can kind of see you better and see some of the others better. How is it going on there for you? There might not be any changes. I'm just curious.
I'm feeling sturdy, I guess. And just still
you can write sturdy. That's interesting. Sturdy. Yeah.
And observing.
Sturdy, thoughtful, observing.
I think I want to move. I don't know, I keep like wanting to sink down like to E4 and like look a little bit more towards 2 o'clock.
Okay, we can follow that impulse. You can always move back or adjust if you want to, but if you're feeling that impulse, then just go ahead. And you'll be moving down to E a little bit and turn into 2 o'clock. So your orientation is moving a little, and then I'll check in with you once that movement happens.
Yeah.
How is that for you? What do you notice? How is it for you now?
Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah. Okay. And what did that do for you?
It kind of opened up the middle. And also like the still, seeing the landscape.
Okay. Seeing the landscape. Open up the middle, seeing the landscape. Yep. And you're talking about the landscape, so it's kind of like the whole terrain. I'm just curious about these other characters. Do you see them at all? Do you see them all equally? Do you see one over the other? What's going on with those three? Is there any awareness around them? Or?
Yeah, they're all like in either my peripheral vision or like none of them are like front and center, but I can see them all.
Okay, great. I can see all the others. I can see them all. And there was some rumblings about the word acceptance. And so I'm just going to ask if there's any other, are you still feeling accepting, or if you were to use other words to describe that same thing, what would those other words be? Or movements or sounds or whatever?
It was very like kind of an acceptance of what is, and also accepting others as they are, the others as they are.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what's going on in the now, and then how those others are. It's just like accepting of it all. Yeah. And as you've moved and you've reoriented, is that still there, or is it shifted to something else that's more prominent? You gave me the sturdy, thoughtful, and observing, but I'm just seeing what happened with the acceptance. Is it still there as part of things?
Yeah, I think it's, I am what I am.
Mm-hmm. That's a good thing. I am what I am. Let's get that in. That's interesting.
And it's also like sometimes I am what's needed, sometimes I'm not.
Yep.
And
let's get that in. Yep. Sometimes I'm what's needed, sometimes I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
And then, sorry, what about the others?
Oh, and then it's like acceptance that the others are needed too.
Okay, beautiful. Acceptance, the others are needed too. Thank you very much, studio work. Now, I'm finding myself pulled to process work with groups, good old graphic facilitation. So I'm going to wander over there and hello again. How's it for you? There's been some stuff happening here, so I'm curious. How is your somatic responding to this?
I'm feeling much more comfortable now. So I'm feeling a sense of a wave of calm.
Much more comfortable, a wave of calm. Yay. Okay. And what was the thing that made you more comfortable?
I guess it's the relatability with the other three.
Yes, please.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Relatability with the other three made me more comfortable.
Yeah.
Nice. Anything else you notice? Is there any desire for movement or reorientation for you at all? Or are you just happy where you are?
I'm happy where I am. Mm-hmm. I'm confident and fine where I am.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So to my observers, my circle, isn't that interesting, right? So now we got some softening happening with graphic facilitation, and there's more relatability. So that was really important. They're feeling better. Nice. So now I'm drawn to the visual coaching. I'm going to walk over that diagonal and go stand next to that one and say, hey, how was it for you? Some stuff's been happening here. I'm curious about what's going on for you. You aware of movements happening? There's been some orientations. There have been some words with accompanying feelings and stuff. So how is it for you, all that stuff that you may or may not be aware of?
I'm feeling the warm happiness of working with groups, of the visual process with groups. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I've lost the whole picture here. I can only see part of it. I can feel the conversation between studio work and graphic recording. And I can sense a movement to my sense is that I don't want to overlap on a line, the exact line with any of the other figures, but that I want to orient myself to them without.
So if there's an impulse, is there some sort of move? Is there some sort of place you now belong?
Yeah.
If so, what is that?
Well, I want to move to 8, and I want to move to B8B.
8B, okay.
Yeah.
Gently, softly, even though that's a long territory, we're going to move over to 8B. Boing, that was a big movement. Yeah. So I'm going to ask you first, as you make that movement, how is that for you? Visual coaching?
Feels very dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
It's relational. It's interconnected. I'm seeing lines and feeling lines between graphic recording and visual process with groups, and also studio work and visual process with individuals. Almost like a container is being formed for like a fifth figure or two.
I'm aware of some other things here, so I'm curious about adding in some other things, but we're starting with these 4 yet. But you can feel this container and something else kind of arriving.
Yeah.
Great. And is your nose in the right direction?
No, I feel like I need to orient it maybe back towards graphic recording.
So if you were a clock, which hand on the clock?
Oh, sorry, it would be like a 9 a.m.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so just take that in, because that can make a subtle orientation change. So how is that now with that orientation? Is that feeling right for you?
It feels more sturdy.
Sturdy.
Yeah, more comfortable. Yeah.
Yes, AM, not PM, eh, Mateo? Yeah. Hopefully that's the sunny side of things. Yeah.
I have no idea how to represent AM on a clock.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, it was interesting information. Yeah.
Back towards graphic recording.
Yeah, no, it's okay, Jill. Trust that happened. That's an interesting nuance, and we could add various things. I projected my sunny thing on it. Could be something else, but it's definitely about light, not dark, right? Depending on which hemisphere you're in and what time of year it is. Okay, thank you. So everybody just kind of breathe in these 4. And if there's any movements that want to happen or any words that want to be spoken, feel free to let me know. Doesn't have to be, but just checking.
I have a request. I'm just wondering if Brian can zoom out a little bit so we can see the
There
whole
you go. Thank
thing.
you. Yeah, it's nice to get the whole big picture. Yeah. Thanks, Brian. Okay, I'm going to, as facilitator, walk off and go see my container here, right? And just debrief this a little bit. So as you guys have been taking it in, some of the things that you brought forward before, I'm kind of checking on them. What do you notice, right? These are the aspects of our field. Some of it is probably obvious, but anything you want to speak out, sometimes it's helpful just to speak out the obvious. So what are you seeing here with our 4 animals? What's the movements that are happening?
And you're wanting thinking here, right? Like
yeah, cognitive's okay. Yep.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Yep.
What's coming up for me right now is just noticing visual process, individual, groups, and studio are all have a gaze on someone else, and graphic recording is looking into the empty space where all the words used to be.
Yeah, that'd be the report there was graphic recording could see everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And it wants the words. Yeah. Yeah, but that is interesting, isn't it? Because we can see, even though they were reporting that they were aware of the others, if we just look at it straight on, it would seem to us that they're just aware of one, but they're actually reporting that there's peripheral vision in there too. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I was really high in my head there.
Yeah. And sometimes it's our own individual projection. Like if this was my world, it would be what it means, right? So, and there's an aspect of myself that will do that too. But when I facilitate, I kind of have to let go of it and just what are they literally saying, right? And trust their thing, but also track like you're doing, right? Your own interpretation and analysis of it.
Yeah, that's what I thought we were supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. Thank you, Paul. Yeah. Anything else that people are observing? Who said the Yeah, Jill.
Something that I'm feeling is a stress and a competition within the field, and it's
not on the floor. This is you, Jill, speaking, right?
There's a stress, there's a competition in the field due to this trauma that we've been experiencing, this event that we're experiencing still, and a sense of scarcity, as well as a sense of being less than other groups somehow, because our skills are visual or our skills are slightly adjacent to more traditional professions. So there's
Just
sort of an
eye it,
uppity,
'cause
there's sort of an uppity feeling I can feel.
Okay,
Yeah.
so for yourself, you kind of feel that uppity feeling. Yeah, good. And I'm aware of the trauma and some of these other components, so we may definitely bring those up. Steve's got a hand up. Go for it, Steve.
Yes, so what's been coming up for me as I've sort of watched these two stages from move one to here, like initially it felt very unstable to me, and some of the words were reflecting that. And I feel now that this set of movements have come into a space where, I mean, maybe this is too much in my head, but I could draw a circle. There's a inscribing
exactly.
circle.
That's exactly what happened. Yep.
And everybody's now feeling more relaxed and more comfortable and calm. And I could see, like, in a few more orbits of the sun, like everybody would now, you know, come
potentially. Yeah,
into
potentially the movement. Yeah, but there's definitely been, to what Jill was speaking to, that competition and splitness and everything, right? That was more there in the first move, and that's definitely been here in this field as it's continued to expand and unfold, right? And it's gone into kind of these different camps. But definitely this take two, this movement towards health and integration that's happened, there's been more of a sense of being able to see the others. And even though the word didn't get used, it would be my word, like a respect, right? Like they're there, they have their place, I can see them, I'm part of things, right? Some of them are being much more relaxed, relational, I think came up, relatable in two places. So that's good news. That's good news compared to the first thing. And definitely good news at large. Good. Anybody else? And then I'm gonna see what happens as we throw in some other components. Go for it, Ashanti.
Yeah, so I think the movement was interesting in that, you know, it almost looks like it's beginning to turn, like their noses are beginning to turn inward a little bit, not quite.
Yeah, into a
there.
circle. Yeah.
And there just feels like it's interesting, that space, like in the middle.
Yeah, what's in there?
It feels like, I feel like there's an energy there, but I'm not sure like what's there. It's a bit of an unknown. It feels very like it wants, something's pulling, but it's like.
May I ask you to just follow that? This is sometimes what we can do. Sometimes we know what we're placing, but sometimes there's a palpable energy and we don't know what the heck it is, but we can place it and experiment it. So since you're calling it out and it's kind of come up in others, I'm going to invite you, if you're willing to go into the center, figure if you would, you're feeling it. So tell Brian where to place another figure here.
Like if in, I guess like somewhere in like C, between 6 and 7, that square.
Yeah, right there in that.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Yep. Now, just feel into it. You want to go up, down a little bit, whatever you guide him.
Want to go down just a little bit. So it's, yeah, like right there.
Beautiful. And which direction? If you have a nose. And sometimes there's more than one nose. So I don't know if this is one of those times. I don't want to lead it too much, but.
Like I feel like the nose is like, maybe it's at 12:30 p.m.
So 2 noses? Yeah. So 1 up, 1 down?
Yeah.
Okay. So 2 noses, please. 1 at 12 and 1 at... I might not be hearing you right, but I see it more at the 6 o'clock. Is that right? For 12:30?
Yeah, and like 1 at like 1 at 9, it's 9 a.m.
There's that a.m. again. Yeah, cool. Yeah. Okay, 1 there. Yeah. Try that on. Is that right? And you can tweak it.
And maybe like the 9 a.m. is like maybe like 8:40.
Okay, so just a little to the 8-ish. Yeah. Better?
Yeah.
See how it can be so precise? It's interesting, eh? Just the field knows it wants 840. Okay, so just standing in there and just get up down on in there and let your brain let go of it, because the brain's going to want to solve it all. Everybody like, what is it? And I see stuff going on. You might be right. What's going on in the chat? It's always fun to have a hypothesis. So, and she's going to guide us, because you're going to go in there and inhabit it. And then I'm going to walk softly over and I'm going to say, wow, you just got on this board. And hey, there's 4 others around you. And you may or may not be aware of those 4. How is it for you? Does it come up to you? And just drop into your body and give us a report. Anything that you notice, if there's senses, sensations, feelings, anything.
I feel, I don't know, I feel like there's something, like it feels like something's emerging. There's a bit of anticipation.
Mm-hmm. Great. Emerging, anticipation. Yes.
A bit of hesitancy and wondering about like there's a little bit of, you know, I don't know, I feel a little bit, there's a lot of emotions, sort
Emotional.
of like an ebb and flow, like, just, a lot of kind of I feel like I'm like a yo-yo. And while if there's excitement there, it's also, I'm wondering, like, what am I not seeing? Yeah.
Excitement. What am I not seeing? And I'm talking about seeing. Is it aware of seeing at all? It's got 2 noses, so it's got 2 orientations. Is it aware? Are your eyes closed? Are they open?
My eyes, like, I feel like that they might be closed.
Closed eyes.
Yeah, closed eyes.
And so if you can't see, if you've got closed eyes, are there any other senses?
Like I feel like I'm going to be weird, but I feel like I feel like there's a lot of breath and like there's like my sensories, like my sense of smell.
I was wondering about that. You got 2 noses, so yeah.
Like but I'm perhaps confused about, or I can't, it's leading me somewhere, but I'm not sure, like, which.
That often happens when you have 2. And sometimes they can be all around, right? So so you're confused and you're not sure on what was the word? You're not sure on the reality? Is that the word?
Feels like there's a duality.
Okay, there's duality. Yeah.
Happening or occurring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if you're in the now. Just see if you have it. Might not be there, but just see if there's anything, if there's any sense of what you are or who you are. You don't have to. Sometimes we won't get it, but it's worth asking.
I'm not quite sure, but I feel like I feel like my relationships with these, in this, with the people around in the circle, like I feel tethered to them. I feel
let's put tethered.
There's a line, like a connection.
You're connected to all of them. Yeah. If you could draw those lines, that would be interesting. And it's not just a line, it's a tether, which is an interesting kind of feel to it. I could put my own projection on tether, but you tell me, what's that? I'm a person from another planet. What does tether mean?
I think if the line is, it's feels like it's like there's small dots, but they're spaced far apart from each other. Mm-hmm. And I see them, and perhaps they're almost like invisible.
Mm-hmm. And are they, have they been there and they're fading, or are they emerging? Do they have any time to them?
I think.
And do try feel. I feel
like they might be emerging.
Okay.
I feel like.
You said that was your first word, so yeah. So these kind of soft little connect the dots are emerging. And if there's an emotion to that, is that like to be blunt about it, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Is that a neutral thing?
It feels good.
Okay, it's a good thing. Now, I'm just going to leave that as it is. I'd love a screenshot of this one. I may take the middle away, but for now, I'm just going to leave it. I'm so grateful Mira can keep up with this too. Thank you. It's a good experimentation, Brian. And this is such a luxury to work in partnership with you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's awesome. Goosebumps. And I'm going to need another one in. And I'm not going to tell you what you are, but I know what you are. Let me just see. Barb, I think it's you. I saw the umbrella in there. I didn't see it earlier. Cool. Okay. And when you're ready, just, you know how to do this. You're a constellator. Go find where you belong. Where are you pulled?
I would say between A and B and between 10, between A and B and on 10. Yeah. And I want to look out right now.
Mm-hmm. And which direction is out?
Towards 10.
Okay.
And I'm feeling, I'm feeling really, very agitated.
Mm.
And uncomfortable.
Mm.
Like I can't move,
mm-hmm.
And yet I have so much like
agitated, uncomfortable, can't move,
yeah.
pent up energy or something. I just see your hands and it's like, I want to like explode or something.
It doesn't feel like pent up energy. That would be
okay. Okay.
It feels like swirling energy, which is a different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to let you know what you were. I brought you in as support.
Ooh.
So it's interesting what you're reporting as support. So just see what happens, and we can name that as support. And then I'm going to check with the others because that's an unusual report out from support.
Yeah.
Agitated, uncomfortable, can't move. And that thing that you were trying to describe, I think is important to do it. You said it's not pent up energy. It's what? Do you remember what you said?
Swirling energy.
Swirling. Yeah. Thanks. Brian will get that for us. Swirling energy. Let me check to everybody else who's a rep. There's two new characters that has emerged. Let me know if there's any energy, if there's any response, first to the first one, and then I'm curious about the second one. And just feel free to unmute yourself and just speak freely from the reps. As that one in the middle came in, let's start there. Anything that went on for you, any reactions to that one in the middle?
For me, the feeling of reaching out.
Sorry, one sec. I just want to ask the reps first. So the people who are representing studio work, graphic recording, graphic facilitation, visual coaching, you guys on the board.
Capture this.
No
Christina?
problem, Angela. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wait and see.
Sorry. I felt excited by this new thing emerging.
Okay.
A little bit anxious, but mostly excited and connected.
Thank you. That's a good sign. Yeah. Others? Tanya, I see you as GF nodding.
I think it brought us together.
Okay.
And it was it was good to see that it brought us together.
Okay. Thank you. So that's two who like that center one.
I also like it.
You do too, studio work. Okay, good to know. And who's our fourth?
Visual process with individuals. It's like a surprise participant, something.
It is.
Something mysterious, maybe unknown.
Yep.
And,
it is. Bye, anybody who needs to leave. Thanks for coming. Bye, Catherine.
Almost like a spiritual center or central sort of.
Yep, you're trying to make it known. So it's like it's unknown, it's this, it's that. It's okay. So that visual coaching is trying to figure it out, which is what we do in visual coaching. Trying to name it and figure it out and everything. Okay. So, but it sounds like you're too, there's not an aversion to it. So is there a neutrality, or like the others were reporting a positivity around it?
Yeah, and are we responding to the support as well?
Not yet. I'm just curious about the center one right now.
Sure.
It looks like it's a keeper, whatever the heck it is. Yeah. So yes, for you, it's okay. Visual coaching. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's see what we do with this seemingly anti-behaving support on the surface. So support, I'm going to go check with you because you've heard from the other ones. There's one in the middle. So I wonder if anything happened to you as I was bopping around hearing things. Just unmute. You might be the same as you were. That's okay. Just let me know what's going on.
I'm quite nauseous. I actually, I can't really see them.
Okay. Yep. No. So how would it be? Let's put down nauseous. And nauseous, everybody, is not always a bad thing. Usually beginning before something like kabamo, sometimes it's very unsettling, right? So this agitation, this nausea stuff can happen before a breakthrough and stuff even happens. But it's, understandably not comfortable. So just dip a toe, Barb, you don't have to get in there and barf on us. Because I can see you're a good repper, so you're feeling it. I'm curious about the wanting to see them. So there's an invitation, you don't have to take it, but I'm wondering if you might want to gently and softly turn around and take a look-see.
I would be happy to look if I could be in the corner up there by 11.
Okay, so we're going to scoot you more, so you have support, need some support. Yeah.
I need support, and then I will look at them.
Okay. So we're going to try that out. Thank you for the movement. So you're right there, tucked into that center, and you got that feel, you got that wall kind of behind you, and then you take them in. So just do it slowly, not too, that's a big move. And just see what happens. Let me know now, how is it for you?
I'm much better.
Hmm.
A lot better.
I wonder what you were looking at before.
I was looking away.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't
So
looking, I was looking away.
you were looking away. So maybe you were looking at the future or the other stuff or whomever, but whatever it was, that was not good for you. But when you turned around and you actually are support, I brought you in support for this particular field. Now, when you turned around looking at this particular field, good news, it feels better.
But at the same time, one of the reasons I feel support is that they don't need me. Like I feel okay because they don't need me. So I think I feel that looks like a solid structure to me, and I don't need to step in. And
so not too much support is needed. You can kind of be there. What do they call that in sports? You're kind of like on the bench and you can be called in when needed.
Yeah, I think so.
If needed. Yeah. Good. So whatever that is in the middle certainly did something. And also all the orientation and relationality, right? The softening of the competition and that whatever of being able to see each other, and each has their place, and there's some cross connections, and this thing in the middle that's emerging, and we might not know what it is, but it's kind of interesting, isn't it? To go, it's going to be okay here. There's some relationality that's happening. There's whatever that is that's emerging that connects the dots to all of us. It makes us all feel better. And what do you know? We don't even need support because of that. Support's up there in the corner, maybe to be called in the future or something. But right now it feels pretty good because it doesn't have to be pulled on. Spoke too soon. Hey, Bri. There it goes. Yeah. Okay, good. For all the reps, just see, you heard from support. So I'm curious, what's going on for you with that move with support? It was looked somewhere else that made it all kind of swirly and nauseous. And then it turned around and it's tucked in that corner. It doesn't have to come and directly support you because what you got going on is actually okay, but it's there. How was that for you? Anybody wants to report in about what happened there? I can see GF nodding away. Graphic facilitation, process work with groups. Tanya. Yeah.
Feeling good. Support's up there just in case.
Yeah, good.
Just feeling good.
Okay, good. How was it for you, graphic recording?
I found the agitation and the difficult energy quite painful, and it was really pulling my attention.
Yep.
And now that support is more comfortable and is more oriented towards us, I'm happy, but also support is now a smaller part of my attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I can refocus on the rest of the constellation.
Yes, please. Yep. Okay. Sounds good. How about you, studio work?
I feel like it's placed well for where I need it. Because I think, the studio or the support is, in studio work, I'm very self-supporting.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm connected to the network, and that it's good where it is because I don't really need it near me.
Good. That's what I was saying too about you and you all. Yeah. Good news. Thank you. And how about you, visual coaching?
My sense of support is that it's a bystander and that it's freaked out and scared and.
Well, it was when it was turned the other way, it was, but now it's turned around.
It's trying to get off the map, and I don't like that.
Okay.
And I don't feel good about that. I actually feel that the support really needs to be underneath that emerging center, that emerging new energy, so that we can contribute to that more easily.
Bye, Matea. Good to see you. We'll keep it rolling. Thank you for those with this is the thing with Constellation. We're almost there, but we need a little bit more. Those who can stay. If you need to leave and you're repping, just let me know and I can jump in and wrap, or others can as well. So but we'll do a real quicksy here and just check. So I'm going to go to support. Support, you heard visual coaching. Who's a little more into the deep and the touchy-feely, so it's kind of wanting. It's wanting to invite you to connect up in the middle and maybe even get under that emerging thing. How was that for you? I could see having some reactions, but unmute and let me know. How was that proposal?
You know, I'm sad that visual process, you know, I kind of, in a way, I feel rejected by visual process, but I also really strongly feel that I'm in the right spot. It's all okay.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't, I think that if I went there underneath emerging, I would be a bad influence.
Okay.
I really, you know, I'm in the right spot right now.
Mm-hmm. Now let me go check. So I'm going to go back to visual coaching. Well, I checked for you visual coaching, and it actually doesn't see things the way you interpret it. Mm-hmm. It's kind of wanting to not. It doesn't want to, I missed the word, but mine would be interfering. It doesn't want to really kind of muck up there with their emergent stuff. How did that land for you? How was that for you?
I don't like the support narrative. It's not helping me. I don't feel supported by it. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel heard either. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's got its own agenda. It's not actually attuned to what's being expressed.
Let me check with your 3 compadres in the field, because they had a different interpretation. So I'm just going to check. So studio work, graphic facilitation, and graphic coaching. Anything you would say to visual coaching? Do you concur with how it's feeling about support, or anything that you're observing or would offer in exchange?
I think for me, it came up is I think visual process coaching is valid, because it feels like she needs support, and that support is close to her, but not supportive. But I also don't feel unsupported.
Yeah, you feel supported. You're okay. Yeah, you don't see it as a negative. Yeah.
I also
okay.
Kind of feel validating it. Yeah.
You think it's more with the visual coaching than it is with you. Yeah. So you're like, I'm okay. I don't need it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like where it is. Okay. Very good. Thanks, studio work. How about you, graphic facilitation?
I'm fine with where it is. Okay. And I think it should decide where it goes.
Okay. Thank you.
It should have autonomy.
Okay. And how about graphic recording?
I was fine where support was, and I'm mostly fine where support was, but I'm very drawn by this conflict and concerned about the conflict, because I need to see what's happening in the whole field to record it, and the conflict is what I'm noticing. People being happy is less noticeable.
Okay, good. Now let's come back and see. Let me check with support. So support, there was conversations going on there. How did those land for you? Different words were used, different whatever. Just curious if there was any movement for you.
It's all good. And I would be happy to go to A1 corner, and maybe it might help the.
Okay. You're feeling a pull there. Let's see. Yeah, let's try it on. Okay.
I want help coaching, and I was thinking maybe it's because coaching can't really see me. So I'll face in. You know, I'm very happy to face in, but I don't want to enter, is the way that I would put it.
Right, right. So again, you're going to switch over there, and the nose is going to orient that way. So let's just, and how is that for you as you move?
No, I'm good here. I feel really strongly that entering would be not a good thing, but I also want to try to support visual process without entering.
Visual process work with individuals? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so the visual coaching stuff without entering. So there is a desire to support it. So it was saying, I don't feel like you're supporting. So you're like, hey, I want to support you. And I'm going to go over here. And so the question is kind of, does it feel more supportive over here? So let me go check with visual coaching. How was that for you? So your colleagues are all okay. Studio Work said, actually, you're the one who needs support, not us. And then support kind of responded to, hey, maybe something is going on with visual coaching. And let me move over here. I still can't enter, but I would like to be of support to it. And I'd like it to be able to see me. So how is that with that movement and discussion? And give me a report.
Well, the sensation that I'm getting is just scared and uncertain, and also almost a feeling of like, I'm proud of not needing support, or I'm proud of being unsupported. Like I can just fight on my own and kind of do this all by myself. And somehow that's noble. But with this new emerging part, this sort of tender new shoot, my sense is that there's something, there's a gentle support that's needed in relation to maybe visual coaching specifically.
Well, that's what I was going to check. So I just want to check with the both. We'll test it out because Studio Work pointed it out. So I'm just going to check Studio Work's hypothesis. How would it was kind of there before, but it was tucked up there and maybe you couldn't really feel it. I'm wondering if you would be open to feeling the placement of support right behind you, visual coaching.
Oh, sorry, say that again.
Would you, as visual coaching, how would you feel? And I'm going to check with support too to make sure it's okay for it. But how would you feel about having support right behind you?
My sense is that that would be soothing and that would be good.
Now, let me check with support. Would that be all right by you?
Yeah, I'm up for supporting coaching because coaching wants it.
It's the only one that's got a problem. Yeah, the other ones are okay. Yeah. Okay, good. Go ahead.
And can you give me the coordinates on that one?
Yep. So it'd be right behind. So it'd be between 8 and 9 at the same level you have it. Yeah. We're going to try it there and then point the nose, like get right in there behind. I don't know if you've got layers. It's okay to go over the tender shoot emerging. You can take that out. Tender shoot emerging relationship. Yeah. And get support. You tell me support. Are we there? And you tell me coaching. Let's get it so that it feels right to both of you.
That doesn't feel right to me. I feel like it needs to more like beside on the same parallel.
So on the 8 line or right behind you?
On the 8.
On the 8. Okay.
Yeah.
So Brian, right on that 8 line. Yeah. And where's the nose to go?
Sorry, I'm just having a hard time seeing the numbers. On the 9 and then on the B, 9B.
Okay. Yeah. So right behind you there.
Yeah. Some backup.
Yeah, exactly. Does that make sense, Brian? So, yeah, exactly. Right there.
Yeah,
and then the nose right behind you and we'll
the
check with support.
Go anywhere.
Okay. Let me check with support. How is that for you, support? And where does if it is okay, where does your nose want to go?
I'm happy to, if coaching wants this, I'm happy to place my arms or rather my hands on visual coaching shoulder. You know, I'm very happy to be there to offer.
Tell me your nose first, because if you have your hands there, then the nose is probably oriented towards visual coaching.
Facing towards coaching.
Oh, those hands are great. Good. We'll get 2 hands. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I'm very happy to lend my strength.
It is the new kid on the block.
That feels so great. I feel a sense of relief and like a welcoming and
Yay.
gratitude.
Yay. How about the others? As you're seeing your colleague get what it needs, yay. Thumbs up from facilitation, thumbs up from studio work. How about you, graphic recording?
Oh, I'm having complicated feelings.
You want some too?
Yeah, when I didn't think I needed a lot from support, I liked having it there, ready to spring.
Yeah.
But I didn't think I needed it. And then when it was directly behind me, I felt
Angela, thank you.
warmth, and I could lean back into support, and that was lovely. And I thought,
so
I
check
did
this.
need it.
Check this.
And then it's
Yeah.
gone.
Oh, okay. Okay. Good.
But
Yes.
I miss it, but I am also pleased that coaching is getting what it needs, because coaching's need seems to be stronger and more imminent.
Well, it deals with all the deep stuff and the trauma that was mentioned before. Yeah. Good. And I just want to check if there's anything that can be done for you to also feel it. Maybe there can be a hand reached out to you.
I would like to try to be between the two of them, and then my hand.
Your hands could be like that.
For support. I feel like, I don't know. I mean, I would have to check in with graphic recording if they want to be touched. I don't know.
Well, let's ask. How would that? Would you like a hand extended to you? Would you like to be touched graphic recording by support? And how does visual coaching feel with splitting the support?
Feels great.
Okay, you're okay with it. Excellent.
Touch feels very strong.
Yep.
I like the presence.
Yep.
But I don't quite need.
You don't need a hand extended or anything. Yeah. Just having it in between is good for you.
And knowing that the touch can happen when it's necessary feels good.
Excellent.
But I kind of need to do my own thing as well.
And thank you. That's clear. That's really nicely articulated. Support, where's your nose go?
I can face into the center. I feel like it's very important to provide support to graphic recording and coaching by facing into whatever is happening within this field.
Emerging in the field at its center. Yay. Ooh, I just got goosebumps. Wow. Yay. Yeah. Let me check with the others. So lots of movements happen with the visual coaching, the graphic recording, and them getting the support that they need. And support's also turning to this emergent thing to support it. And then it can also take in studio work and graphic facilitation. How is that for you, graphic facilitation? Okay, you unmuted, Tanya, and then I'm going to ask studio work. You're okay. Yeah. And how about you, studio work? You were okay to begin with, but there's a lot going on with your colleagues.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I have is to move in like one block.
Studio work's going to move in. Cool. Yes, please.
Right.
Towards that emergent thing. Okay, good. You knew exactly where. Thank you. Anybody else? Any other movement? Going once, going twice. All the components of our beautiful field are okay. And they're connected to whatever this emergent thing is. Let me check with the emergent thing. Hello, emergent thing in the center. Boy, there's been some stuff going on here with support and orientation and stuff. How was that for you? How are you?
I feel my heart is racing. It feels like I have an overwhelming sensation, but it's a good, like I'm excited because I feel supported.
Yeah.
That these.
Would you put this in red or something in the middle if you could? I'm excited. I feel supported.
I feel like
it's okay if you can't, Brian.
That all of these connections, these pieces,
The words, I feel excited.
that they're with me,
All
and
these
I don't
pieces are
feel
with me.
alone.
Yay. So if you're not alone, what are you?
I feel, what am I?
If you're not alone, what are you? You said, I'm not alone. So therefore, what are you?
I'm part of I'm part of the community.
Yay, yes, please. I'm part of the community. Yay. Very nice. Let me just check, going once, going twice, if there's any other movements, any other words that want to be voiced. Doesn't have to be, just checking if there's any impulses.
I just want to say welcome to the community, to the center.
Nice reflective coach. Yeah. How is that for the center? You are welcome here. Even if we don't fully know what you are and you're emergent and still to be seen, it feels good and you're in the center of us. And you feel excited and you're not alone, so therefore you're part of the community. Yay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, nice.
I also want to say just one last thing too. Just thank you to support for doing that and for shifting. That was really powerful. And
Let's put that in red up against visual coaching. If we can put that, thank you support for shifting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Shifted it.
I was worried about support.
And how are you now?
I feel a sense of relief. It didn't go away because I very much need them to be part of this.
And we'll put that underneath your list there. And so relief that support is here, you're needed. You are needed. You are welcome here. Yes, please. Okay, thank you everybody deeply. Just take a moment to fully feel into your role. When you're ready, I'm going to invite you to step out of it and walk over and out of that grid. If we can get the big picture of that grid so they can see where they're walking to, they're going to join that circle. And you're going to shake it off. And the lines that I'm going to ask each of you to say, and we'll do it quickly. What's yours is yours, what's mine is mine. Right, just to help that and just shake it off. Support, and you can just change your name back to support. If you just say, what's yours is yours, what's mine is mine. I'm letting it go.
What's yours is yours, what's mine is mine.
Great, thank you. Let's get graphic recording, same thing. Let's get support, studio work. You can all unmute and just say it at the same time. What's yours is yours, what's mine is mine.
What's mine is mine.
Yours is yours, what's mine is mine.
Right, shake it off. And then you guys can thank me as the facilitator. So I'll take your thanks. And then there's a line.
Thank you very much, Christina, for eloquently doing that.
Thank you. And then the line for everybody to unmute, the line you're going to say back to me is, thank you for facilitating. And I am the best facilitator for me. You're going to take your own facilitation of you back. Okay. Instead of leaving it projected on me. You thank me, I did a good job, hopefully, yes, but say, I'm the best facilitator for me.
Thank you for facilitating.
And I am the best facilitator for me.
Thank you for facilitating, and I am the best facilitator for me.
Yeah. And same thing for anybody who's been observing this whole time. We thank you for holding the space. And same line you're going to say is what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours. Same thing for me, both thanking me, and then that you're the best facilitator. You're all a part of this too. Shake it all off, everybody. we step away from it. And let's also thank Brian, everybody, for being an incredible partner here, assisting this along and showing innovation in its midst. So big kudos and thanks to Brian. Yay. I love it. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that was really delightful. And I just want to thank everybody for the open-mindedness. And I just really thank you for finally being able to do this. Like as a field, I've been wanting to do a constellation with our field, and only people in our field are really going to understand it. It's hard to kind of take these things, even though I do, to my constellating community. How wonderful to do it as a community here. Kiss your left brains and your intellects. It may be making some, and that's why I have that. You can always use that template I have that helps you digest and chew on some of what happened here if you cared to. But just kiss the left brain, thank it for doing its thing, that it wants to understand everything. However, not all of this stuff is going to be understandable, although a lot of it can be. And then you're kissing that right brain and that heart, because this will continue to unfold. There will be a feedback loop. And just trust the process. We'll all see what happens, right? And feel free to email me. I'm Christina@shiftitcoach.com. If there's anything you want to report in on about what happened with this ripple effect wise, I'd love to hear the reports. And I'm just delighted to whatever that unknown is for our field, and that role of support and feeling those 4 animals in our field feeling good. That's really good news to hear. That warms my heart. So I thank you for the privilege and honor to be able to help do what emerged today through all of us. Thank you very much.